Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle, whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded, and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started. Welcome to episode 6 of the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. Today we're going to talk about how social media impacts your nursing career. This episode is not what you think. You already know not to post pictures of your patients on social media. Today we're talking more about personal branding. Yes, did you know you have a personal brand? We're going to look at the results from a 2015 National Recruiter Survey. This survey asked HR personnel and recruiters about how social media impacted their considering a client for a position. Although this is not nursing specific, we can glean a lot from it. 55% of recruiters reconsidered a candidate based on their social media profile. Of those, 61% had an unfavorable reconsideration, while 39% had a favorable reconsideration. This tells me that recruiters and hiring managers and HR people are looking at our social media profiles. For 55% of them to admit that they reconsidered a candidate back in 2015, I bet that number is a lot higher now in 2020. So this is telling us that they are looking at our social media. What are they finding? It's more likely based on this that they will see something negative than something positive. It's really important to note here that we can control what is seen on social media and how we are perceived. Personal branding is important, especially on social media. The next thing they looked at was whether spelling or grammar errors in a post or a tweet made a difference. 72% of respondents said it made a negative impact on that person. In my opinion, we all know that autocorrect can change our words. I don't think that's what they're really talking about here. Getting back to the personal brand, you want to appear professional. So using excessive slang or consistently poor spelling and grammar will make you appear unprofessional, and we really don't want that. It's going to make you look unintelligent, and especially for nurses, I think this is really important. We're not construction workers. We are nurses, and we have to be able to speak and write in a level that is consistent with our education. Next, they looked at photos of alcohol consumption. 54% of the respondents said that photos of alcohol consumption negatively impact their view of that candidate. I recently was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He's an attorney, and he was getting ready to hire another attorney on at his company. And he said that he actually does look at people's social media profiles, and if he sees in every picture that they're holding a drink, he worries about if they're an alcoholic. So he has told his son to be very cautious of photos that are taken of him and photos of him on social media. He says, it's not that you can't drink, but put down your drink. You don't want to have a drink in your hand all the time. So go back and look at your social media pictures and take an inventory. How many times are you holding a drink in your social media pictures? Next, they looked at participation in local or national organizations or groups. Now, this is a good one. 76% said that they had a positive view of the person based on their participation in local or national organizations or groups. Again, this is part of your personal brand. Show where you're a volunteer. Show organizations that you belong to. Do you participate in the Relay for Life? Those pictures should be on your social media. Even better, if you are an organizer or have some type of a leadership role in a committee, or you have some type of a position of authority, make sure you put that on there too. It's one thing for them to see it on your resume. It's another thing for them to see it in a picture on Facebook. And make sure that you're sharing these things tactfully. You don't want to sound like, oh, look at me. You just want to share, hey, look what fun we had walking for the Relay for Life this year. This is our 3rd year in a row. Something like that. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, political affiliation is a little bit different. 13% had a negative response to that person based on their political affiliation, and 85% were neutral. Again, when we are out there trying to brand ourselves, we have to be very careful. Some people are very polarized politically. Although the majority, 85%, were neutral, you never know who you're going to offend, and you surely don't want to offend the person who you're going to be interviewing for. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't put anything political on there. I personally do not, but if that is something that you want to do, just make sure that what you're putting on there is facts, that it's not some kind of distortion, that you're not, people don't want to hire somebody that they believe is going to bring that into the workplace and cause a negative atmosphere in their workplace. Okay, next, they looked at personal presentation. 59% said that the personal presentation of the person had a positive impact. 3% said it had a negative impact. So again, look through your social media. Is this something that you would feel comfortable showing your grandmother? If it's not, you might want to take it off because it's probably not something that you would want to show a potential employer also. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, I'm just not going to be on social media, or maybe you're not on social media. That's not exactly the answer either. Only 7% of respondents thought it was positive that they had limited or no social media presence of a person that they were looking to hire at a candidate. 19% thought that it was negative if you had limited or no social media presence, and 79% were neutral. So if my takeaway from this is, if you're trying to get into a competitive job, such as a work from home job, case management, director of nursing, anything in a leadership role where you're really competing for that job, you need every advantage that you can get. So a 19% negative rate means that about 1 in 5 will count this as a strike against you. In a very competitive job market, we want to take every advantage we can get, and there is always competition for the best nursing jobs. Social media is one way we can increase our chance of getting a better job or getting more money. Okay, now that we've looked at the survey results, I would like to give you my take on this. In my opinion, and again, this is only my opinion, unless you're getting ready to retire, you should have a social media presence, but you should have a very thoughtful and planned out social media presence. People are going to Google you, and when they do, what are they going to see? Google yourself. See what you see. Do you like what you see? One of the first things that you should see when you Google yourself is your LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn is very reputable, it's one of the first things that pop up when you're searching for a person. What does your LinkedIn look like? It's not just an online resume anymore. Your LinkedIn helps you to establish your personal brand. First of all, it should have a good picture of you. And when I say a good picture, this means a professional headshot looking picture. It doesn't have to be taken by a professional, but it should look like a professional headshot. You can get your kid to take this with your iPhone or whatever phone that you use. It really doesn't have to be a professional, but a nice clear background, a professional looking stance, head and shoulders, and you should be smiling and looking at the camera. It should not be something that you clipped out of a bunch of you at the beach and you just kind of put that headshot in there because you like the picture of you because you had a tan. This is something professional, so you want to appear professional. Next, it should have your title. So in your name, you should have your title in there. So if you, like for me, it's Deanna Cooper Gillingham, RN, CCM. I have all that in there so that when recruiters or anybody who is Googling me, they can see right away, I'm a nurse and I'm a certified case manager. They don't have to go and look anywhere else for that. And next, you want to make sure that you have things other than just where you worked. You want to make sure that you have any volunteer experience that you have. If you've been on a committee for the PTA, maybe you've been president of the PTA, that's a leadership position. You want to put things like that on there also. We're not going to get into a LinkedIn now. We'll probably do that later. But I want you to Google yourself. I want you to see what's out there. And I want you to ask yourself, does this present the professional picture that I want of myself? What is my professional brand? Now, people are going to Google you. Human resources people will Google you. Recruiters will Google you. So make sure what they see is what you want them to see. And it's much better to do this proactively, meaning don't put things on there than retroactively, which means take things off that shouldn't be on there. Now, if you have something that shouldn't be on there, yes, take it off. But I want you to consider everything that you put on there. Should this be on there? It can be up for just a few seconds and someone can take a screenshot. They can keep that, send it into your boss or a potential employer. Maybe they work with somebody who you work with. You just never know who can see that. So just be very thoughtful of the type of things that you put on social media. And do this in a positive way too. Make sure you're taking pictures when you're volunteering somewhere. Make sure you're taking pictures when you're doing the Relay for Life. Make sure that you're taking pictures and posting the pictures when you're doing something for maybe an organization that you belong to. Like I belong to the Case Management Society of America. If I go to a local chapter meeting or the Christmas party or the national conference, I make sure that I post pictures of me there. That's part of my work personal brand that I want people to see. Okay, now if all of that didn't convince you, maybe this will. I'm going to tell you the story of my friend Sue. And just so you know, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Sue had hired 3 people that just didn't work out in a row, and she was trying to figure out what was going wrong. The candidates that she hired were, on paper, great candidates. They rocked the interview, and once getting on the job, they just didn't work out for one reason or another. Some of them ended up quitting, and others were fired. She was trying to figure out what she could do to make sure that the next person that she hired would be a good fit. She thought she was already doing that, and she thought she was already doing everything that she could do. But she started looking at the last 3 candidates when they narrowed it down to 3 people, and she started looking at their social media profiles. And she said that by doing that, she was able to come up with a clear winner. Now notice I didn't say a clear loser, I said a clear winner. There were some that were just neutral. They really didn't either have a social media profile or they had a ghost as their Facebook person or their dog, and they never posted anything. So there was nothing to tell her whether they were a good candidate or a bad candidate. And then others were neutral in that they had pictures of their kids, but nothing really that told her anything about whether they would be a good fit. And then she saw somebody that she could see they were involved in community activities. And by the people that she was hanging around and all the different activities she was in, she could see that they had to be able to get along with others to be involved in all these different things. So she made a decision to hire based on the social media profile. Also, her LinkedIn was very up to date. It had projects on there that she didn't list on her resume. So when she saw all of this, it helped to paint a better picture of this potential employee. And it gave her the confidence that this was the right person to hire out of the 3. Now, again, the other 2 weren't necessarily bad, but they didn't bring anything extra. They didn't have that little bit of extra that pushed them over the edge. So again, start thinking about what you can do, what you can post that would help to give that little bit of an edge that will make an employer say, yes, this is the one, instead of making them question or just keep them neutral. Okay, so I hope I've given you a lot to think about today. I want to apologize if you hear some birds in the background. No, I don't have birds. We just live in a tropical area where there are a lot of birds, and even with the windows and doors closed, you can still hear them. Not a bad thing. It just isn't good when you're trying to record a podcast. Okay, so your homework for today, Google yourself. What do you see? Are you happy with what you see? Do you see anything at all? Then, if you're not already on LinkedIn, go ahead, sign up, get on LinkedIn, do a LinkedIn profile, and at least get started. You don't have to do it all right now, but start maybe every couple weeks, just going in there and adding something different, a picture, making sure your name's correct, making sure people can find you. You can also add your LinkedIn link address to your resume, which is great because that helps them to find the right you and gives them another place to go to look for information about you. It shows them a little more than you can fit on that resume. A lot of people that have been in nursing for years say that they can't fit everything on their resume because they've been told to keep it to 1 page or 2 at the very most. LinkedIn is the place where you can put it all. Put everything that you've ever done, anything that will help an employer to understand that you are the best candidate for the job that you're seeking. That's a wrap for today's podcast. I look forward to getting in your ears again next week. And remember, if you have a question or a comment, send it to hello@thestayathomenurse.com. I look forward to hearing from you.